Hello and welcome to the Freq Show. I am very excited today to welcome our guest, Jenna Harrison. She is a coach and somebody who has recovered from burnout, and she's an entrepreneur. And so I'm so excited to have you on the show today to chat entrepreneurship and burnout and hustle culture and all of those things. So thank you for being here today, and thank you for withstanding the technical difficulties we had at the beginning.
Yes, yes, we're about a half hour off from when we started, but I
Yeah,
think that's just been like great preamble. So thank you
right,
for
right.
having me on. I'm so glad to be here and actually hear you.
Oh, I know that was the thing. We couldn't hear each other. So
Yeah,
let's launch right in.
yeah.
What was your personal wake up call that made you realize hustle culture wasn't working for you anymore?
Yeah, it is so amazing how things sometimes can happen just in a flash. And for me, it was the time it took me to walk upstairs.
Mm,
So, to set the scene, I was a person that really was born with a strong sense of purpose and calling, but I
hmm
could not articulate that purpose for the
mm,
life of me.
mm,
And by the time I finally did and built a business around it, I was so driven to be successful in that finally. And then I'd also had a child, so I was very driven to be a great mom.
hmm
And so it had me working 7 days a week during
Oof.
nap times and evenings for 2 years straight. And I only took one evening off, which was a movie night with my husband, but only because I felt so guilty about being an absent wife.
Mm,
So that was the space that I was in when I was walking up the stairs one night and we'd had dinner together and I was heading up to work and my husband was going to watch some TV and he said, "Have a good night." And I said, yeah, must be nice in this like
mm,
low voice. And in that instant, I kind of surprised myself with that and I thought, whoa, I don't like that person who said that. I don't like
hmm
who I'm becoming.
mm,
And all of these thoughts started flashing through my mind. But I thought, why in the world, what part of me wouldn't want him to rest, right?
hmm
Would want him to also be working at night? And why did I somehow feel that better about myself by being the one who was working so hard?
hmm
So I had all of these thoughts going through my mind. And that is just when I realized, you know what? I told myself I'd only work like this until I made my first 100,000. But guess
mm,
what? Now I'm here and I'm still doing it. And so it must be something else. And
hmm
that is what really opened the door to my inquiry and
hmm
exploration.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
can totally relate to that. I think my husband and I, we've both been entrepreneurs now. Me full time since, oh gosh, like 2012. And then Sam
Mm.
full time starting at the end of 2018. So it's been a long time, but I think there's something within both of us that has had such a connection to our self-worth with our productivity that
Yes.
it has been such a process to undo some of those limiting beliefs that only when we are productive are we of value. So I'm
Right.
interested to hear a little bit more about your story and how you run your business in 3 days a week, which is pretty much the dream for any entrepreneur. So can you walk us through what had to shift energetically for that to become your reality?
Yes, absolutely. It did not happen overnight. I didn't really have anyone that could model this for me. Everyone around me was also in the hustle culture and really glorified the hustle culture,
Mm-hmm.
except for my husband. But he was not an entrepreneur. He was in the
Well, and
military.
but that's so
Uh,
interesting too, because he's in the military or was in the military, and there's so
yes.
much, regimented time and energy. But I guess with
Mm.
that too, it could be like, here's my work time, here's my off time, and it's a very clear delineation.
Yes, yes. So after the Gulf War, there was a big push back here in the States, when they were back in the States in the Army anyway, to really be able to refresh and have
Mm,
family time because they were having huge retention issues. There were so many people that were leaving the Army because their families just never saw their their spouses
Oh, that's
anymore. And
brutal.
so they really wanted to help people reconnect. And my husband is, he's smart, he's very efficient. And so he was just always able to manage his time really well and
Mm,
felt that others weren't managing their time very well when they were working the late
hmm
hours.
hmm
So I do thank him for that. But he also was very much tied to the 4 or 5, or I'm sorry, the 5 or 6 day weeks.
Yeah.
Like that was the norm for him. It was a stretch for both of us to ever think about working less than
Mm,
that. So, since I didn't have anyone really around me to show that it was possible, I noticed myself really ping-ponging back and forth. So, I would make some progress, but then I would fill up the time that I had created through efficiencies with
Yeah.
more work, right? With
Yeah.
more
Oh my gosh,
projects.
I know how that goes. I know how
Yes.
that goes.
Yes. And what was amazing was that when I was taking time off, my business was growing, whether that
Mm,
was me consciously reducing my hours or other periods of my life where, for instance, when COVID hit, we were moving cross country at the same time. So I
mm.
was in a hotel room with my 2-year-old for 2 months and I just could not work as much. Yeah.
In a hotel room with a 2-year-old, that is
Two-year-old. I know.
brutal.
But my business grew during that time.
Mm,
And so you'd think I would get the memo, right? But the
yeah.
patterns, Jaclyn, are just so ingrained deep in
hmm
your body that it is really challenging to shift. And I think the biggest shifts, once I did the coaching, got the therapy, worked with energy healers, did all the things, was that I really needed to learn to receive and
mm,
allow, which
hmm
was really challenging for me because all of my success in the past had come from doing and making the things happen. But then also understanding just how powerful I was. And I
hmm
think what we don't realize when we're working so much is that underneath there's some scarcity, there's some fear
Oh,
that's
huge.
driving us to do it.
hmm
Yes. And so we're really not recognizing our power when we think it takes us that long or when we need to do things a certain way or jump through certain hoops. We're not really recognizing the value of what we offer and how much support we have from the universe to create whatever we're here to create.
hmm That
Yeah.
makes so much sense. So, what do you feel like? Can you whittle it down to a specific thought and how you undid that thought or a new mantra that you brought in? Because to go from working 7 days a week down to three is a pretty big jump. And you have a 2-year old, which I can relate. I have a 3-year old, and then I'm due with another in a couple of months. So I have my
Congratulations.
hands full. But how did you make that transition mentally?
Yeah, so I guess the most important mantra was just that as an entrepreneur, time does not create my success.
Mm.
My value, the value that I create, is what determines my success.
That is so powerful. My time does not determine my success. The value I create determines my success. And I completely relate to that. I feel like I used to hustle, 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 hustle. And over the last year, I've worked hard, but within very clear boundaries. And I've
Mhm.
seen more success than I have prior. And I think
Yeah,
there's such an energy that you carry, right? When you value yourself more, you go into conversations with a different outlook and there isn't as much attachment to the outcome, or at least for me there hasn't been. There's been, hey, here is my service, here is what this interior design costs, I would love to work with you, but if not, no worries. And
right.
I just don't have any attachment to the outcome, and that has shifted things a lot energetically for me. So can you relate to that or play off of that, or
Yes.
how did that work for you?
Yes, 100%. So I love calling that your welcome energy.
Mm,
Because so often we get into the please, would you please, when we're in a sales mode, right? But actually, when we really hone in on our secret sauce and we know that our people love that, then
mm,
this may or may not be your person. But
mm-hmm,
you know that if you're speaking to that person, then there's no convincing necessary. And there's really a huge gift and exchange when you're able to, whatever the service is, right? Help that person create the solution that they want. And so when you're in that, you're welcome. Like you are welcome that I can help you do this, that we're going to get this done for you, that it's going to create the thing that you've been wanting, right? And you're really joyous about how exciting it is, then it doesn't feel like selling at all.
Oh, it's such a frequency shift. It's from
Yeah.
a needy frequency, like you said, please, to you're
Mm,
welcome, which is such a higher frequency of, hi, I'm here and I have all of this value to add. If you want to get on board, great. And if not, that's
yeah.
okay. It's
Yes.
just a huge, huge, huge shift.
Yes. And I think as well, there's a shift with your relationship with trust and
Hmm.
the universe
Hmm.
because you get to a point where you're saying, I want to welcome in these wonderful clients, right? These goals that I have for the year and in this amount of time.
Hmm.
And you have this, you can rely on the fact that that can be created. If you've
Hmm.
put it into the world, into your thoughts and intentions, then it
Yes.
can come to pass. Now
Yeah.
you have to do your human part and figure out, right,
Hmm.
how to help out from your end. But there's not a doubt that it can happen.
We call that the frequency of belief here. And that's basically
Oh,
what this podcast sprung out of. And it was during a really hard time in our business where we were just, it was challenge after challenge after challenge, but we kept making it work. And I
mm,
went, what happened here? Because a few years ago, we would have faced this and crumbled. And I
right.
felt God tell me it's the frequency of belief and it's knowing what you want, taking action on it, which is a
Mm,
key part, and then
yes.
believing relentlessly that it's possible and that it will be yours. And I think where people get a little caught up is that people have difficulty believing in themselves in the first place, which,
Mm,
if you've never done something before, it's very hard to believe in yourself until you start to do it and see the effects of it, right? My dad
right.
always says, competence breeds confidence. And so I always
Mm,
encourage people, even if you don't believe in yourself right away, just take a couple steps and see what happens.
yeah.
And then the other part that I think people get tripped up in is that things do take a little time. Now, I don't want to limit anyone. Things can change overnight and we can establish boundaries overnight and we can see success overnight. But in my case and in my husband's case, it took time to grow our business and time to have really healthy boundaries and time to reflect and see, hey, this is really working. This is not working. And then integrating all of that. And it sounds like you experienced that with a lot of success early on, but you were grinding, grinding, grinding. And then you had that moment with your husband where you felt like you didn't want him to be able to rest because you
Right.
weren't able to rest. And you realize, like, the journey of entrepreneurship is just that. It's a journey. It's not a, hey, today is this and tomorrow is this. There are a lot of steps in between. So, going back to your 3 day work week, I would love to talk to you about how you structure your day to
Mm,
maximize your time. Because,
mhm.
like you mentioned before, your husband is really good with time management. I feel like having children kind of forces us to become better with time management, but I'm
Agreed.
always looking for tips and tools and tricks to be better. So
Yeah.
can you just give us like a little bit of a day in the life of your work day and then
Oh,
maybe a short
absolutely.
day in the life of a non-work day since you live in
Okay.
Mallorca?
Yes. Yes, we do. So that is fortunate because I'm in a time zone where nobody in the States is awake when I first wake up. So I
Mm,
really do have long, quiet mornings where I can do my most important work in the
mhm.
business. And there are no emails coming in, there's nothing happening. I do have some team members that are overseas, but we all understand our work hours and time. So that is really, really fortunate for me.
Yeah.
So really, my calls only happen with my clients and with my mastermind in a couple hour period in the afternoon. And then I have very clear boundaries about when my son gets off school
Mm,
and when he comes home, and
mhm.
that's when my day is done. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really about important work. Like I have a podcast as well, creating my podcast, reaching out to, talk to somebody like you. And then in the afternoon, the last couple hours of my day are my client calls.
Mm. Mm.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. And
And
then
then on a
your off days.
non-work day, yeah, on an
Yeah.
off day, then that's where I'm really going on a hike with my friends, for instance, up into the mountains, or having a really kind of lazy lunch and having some fresh fish by the beach, especially now as we're heading into summer. My mom is here visiting right now, so I've been
Oh,
spending a lot of time
wonderful.
with her, which is wonderful. And I think, in terms of mindset, one of the biggest shifts I had to make was understanding that those times were actually also business development
Oh,
times.
isn't that the truth?
I had to start to understand the importance of renewing myself in order
Mhm.
to really tap into my highest creativity during
Mm,
those other 3 days.
hmm.
Yeah.
It makes so much sense. I have some of my best ideas and inspiration when I've had rest and when I'm away from my computer, when I'm away from my work.
Yeah.
Um, to illustrate that, in 2018, my husband and I have been married almost 17 years. So we've been married a long
Congratulations.
time. We got married in
Mm,
2010, but 2017 was our first, no, it was 2018. I correct
mm,
myself. It was our first big vacation together in 8 years. That's a
mm.
long, long time besides our honeymoon. And we went to Greece for 2 weeks after we had been grinding and grinding and grinding and grinding for years and years and years. And we looked at each other toward the end of the trip and we were like, why did we wait this long to allow ourselves
Mm,
to enjoy some time exploring and just relaxing? Because we both got back to our home and we were so inspired. We were so refreshed. We were so excited to get back
mhm.
to work.
Yeah.
And then it took a few more years of like, a kid on training wheels, kind of sloppily figuring out a schedule. But it still took several more years of us getting to the point of burnout and drawing back, getting to the point of burnout and drawing back to where we are now, which is we have a 3 year old, we have another baby on the way. And so there's so much beyond us
Mm,
that is an incentive to have very healthy boundaries and to have downtime because we want to have that energy for our son. We want to have
yes.
that energy for baby number two. And we absolutely love what we do. And we want to
Hmm.
have the energy to be able to pour back into that too.
Yeah,
So,
I think a trap that a lot of moms get into is, especially when they have their own business, is that they're working and they draw those boundaries and they move on to their children, but then all of the rest of their time, like mine was in the beginning, goes to those children. And that's not necessarily rest time,
no.
right? That's not necessarily replenishment time. And then to carve out that third piece for yourself can be really challenging too. So I like to tell people it's really about quality over quantity,
Mm,
right? You can even in very short moments, I call it CEO time,
mm,
right? You can start to build that in for yourself because that's really the source. As we know so much about brain biology now,
yeah.
and we know that in that nervous system state, when you are rested, that is when you have your best downloads and also your highest problem solving. Like you can figure things out that seemed so difficult the night before when you were grinding through it. And then the next morning you get up and you're like, oh, well, why don't I just do it this way?
It makes so much more sense. Yeah. Yeah, I often encourage people, like, if you're at a standstill and you feel like you're banging your head against the wall, just stop for a while. Go take a walk, read a book,
Mhm.
something along those lines. But speaking to women, my next question for you is one thing that we often hear, right? Is if I don't do it all as a woman, as a wife, as a mom,
Mhm.
it won't get done. So, what would you say to somebody who logically gets the need to slow down, but struggles to trust that pulling back won't lead to a collapse in their business or life or their laundry pile or whatever?
Oh my gosh, I feel that. Like I feel it
Yeah.
so strongly. I remember it so much. And I think what you don't realize when you're there, you don't realize until it's gone, just how much pressure you're carrying when you have to be the one keeping all the plates in the
Yeah.
air, and how much
Oof.
cognitive load that
Hmm.
entails, right?
That's the
It's not
perfect way to
until
describe it
later.
is cognitive load.
Yeah, yeah, and it's low grade, but it's always there.
Hmm.
And I think that I'd always approach it with curiosity. So first I would say, is this just happening in one area? So is it, for instance, just in your business that it's happening? And then I'd say, okay, well, maybe there's a thought error that's leading to the type of people that you're hiring, or maybe you just need some skill building in terms of how to lead a team. But if it is a pattern showing up in your life elsewhere, then it's said with total love because I've been there, but the common denominator really is you.
Hmm.
And we really need to look at what it is that has you bringing in that same situation over
Hmm.
and over again,
Hmm.
right? Because for all of us, it's slightly different, but
Hmm.
it's most likely some ingrained belief or some patterning of your nervous system
Hmm.
that even though it feels counterlogical, it's actually more comfortable for you to be
Hmm.
in that place
Yeah, because it's what
than
you know.
to, it's what you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, rather than
For
moving into something else.
Oh, totally. For
Yeah.
me, I know it was connected with worth because I felt like I had to have so much output to feel good about myself. And when I
Yeah.
started to let that go and just experiment with reading a novel, like just as of a couple years ago, I
Mm.
didn't allow myself to read novels. And I'm a huge reader. I read so much, but I was like, it needs to be about business. It needs to be about
Right.
spirituality. It needs to be about personal development. What
Yes.
reading a novel that's so frivolous. And then I started
Right.
reading novels and realizing this is allowing my mind to wander and be creative. It's making me a better writer. It's making me think about things differently with more curiosity. There's so much beauty in following your muse, whatever that is, and making space, or like you say, CEO time to do that.
Mm.
And so I would encourage all of the listeners to, if you can, and I know you can, separate a sense of worth from how much you are doing, and start realigning your worth with who you're becoming and be proud of that. I feel
Mm.
like that's so much more sustainable, you know?
Mm. Yes, yes. And part of that work comes from really understanding that it's not just something we should do, right? Because so many of us know we should be more aligned, we should be more high vibe, we should be taking more time off. But it won't really happen until you start to contemplate what might I be sacrificing?
Mm,
Because what if what you're doing right now that feels like life is maybe an eight for you,
mm,
things are going pretty well. You don't want to let things crumble because they're going so well, right? So you're keeping up with this pace. But what if that's only a three?
mm,
What if life could get that good
mm,
if you
mhm,
tried a different way?
mhm, mhm. Oh, I love that. This episode of The Freq Show is brought to you by the Freq app, your pocket best friend for calibrating your mind and shifting your mindset. If you are ready to transform the way you think about yourself and your life, then you are definitely going to want to get your hands on the Freq app. It combines uplifting audio messages with specific frequencies designed to reprogram your mindset and transform your thoughts. With our custom calibrations, that's what we call these audio messages, you'll discover how healing your thoughts can reshape your life for the better. Whether you're seeking stress relief, motivation, or emotional healing, or any array of high frequency emotional states, the Freq app offers tailored support organized by frequency and by activity. By frequency, for instance, we have joy, abundance, serenity, self-love, self-worth. By activity, we have walking, cooking, cleaning, legs up the wall, cold plunging, and about 20 other different categories. This app is not just about helping you to feel good. It's about empowering you to live at the highest frequency daily. I created it because I wanted something that would help me shift my mindset easily and quickly whenever I need it. The empowering audio messages are amazing, if I say so myself. But what really takes them to the next level is the frequency chosen for each message. Our bodies are made primarily of water, and frequency affects water, literally. And so when you listen to these messages, not only is it helping you reprogram your thoughts by bringing awareness to them, it's also shifting the frequency in your physical being. We also have incredible plans for the Freq app. We want to do a sleep series so you can listen to frequency while you sleep and sleep deeper and better. We want to do a breathwork series where we bring in breathwork and teach you how to do breathwork combined with frequency. We want to do a series for children, helping them understand and deal with their emotions. So we have a bunch of calibrations already in the app, but our plans for expansion are enormous. We have a 5-day free trial. You can get it anywhere apps are sold, whether that's on the Apple App Store or Android. It's available everywhere. For a very easy way to download it, go to thefreqapp.com and there are links right in there. And that's THEFREQAPP.com, thefreqapp.com. And you can get all of the information there. Sam and I have put our hearts and souls into this app. We cannot wait for you to get your ears and eyes on it and give us all of your feedback. Thank you, thank you, thank you in advance for trying it out. And we hope it will be as transformative for you as it has been for us. Live on purpose and live on frequency. This episode of The Freq Show is brought to you by Higher Dose. Elevate your daily health and beauty rituals with their infrared, PEMF, and red light devices. From detox and weight loss to recovery and relaxation, their biohacking technologies will transform your wellness routine. PEMF technology mimics the healing vibrations of the earth, enhancing the body's natural recovery process, reducing inflammation, increasing energy, relieving stress. It eases sore muscles, and it promotes deeper sleep. Higher Dose does not claim this, but some holistic health practitioners encourage the use of PEMF mats to get rid of excess radiation in the body from cell phones and Wi-Fi and all of the technology that we are exposed to daily. The red light face mask is an effortless addition to any skincare ritual and your best beauty investment yet. It helps to reduce fine lines and wrinkles. It boosts collagen and elastin. It reduces redness and ignites a radiant glow. I can attest to that. It works so well. It's also incredible if you want glowy, dewy, gorgeous skin. This red light face mask goes deeper, literally, by rejuvenating your skin and igniting an unmatched natural glow. Higher Dose generously offered our community 20% off of their products with the code BECKON, BECKON, at higherdose.com. Again, use the code BECKON at checkout for 20% off of your purchase at higherdose.com. This discount is not available for sauna purchases, but I can personally attest that everything I used from Higher Dose is absolutely incredible, and you will not regret this purchase or any of their purchases, okay? You can thank me later. Now back to the show. Okay, so next question. You mentioned that constraint or boundaries can actually be a tool for growth, not a limitation. Can you unpack how using constraint has helped you solve bigger business problems faster?
Yes, absolutely. This is one of my favorite topics, right? Because right away, when you talk about working fewer hours or constraining your hours, the mind automatically goes to, I'll have less success. And
Hmm.
in my experience, it's been the opposite. When you do this, it forces that higher level thinking. That's really what you needed in your business anyway. You just get there faster. You get to that understanding faster and create that solution faster. So I'll give you two examples
Yeah.
because I think that often people also fall into the line of thinking where they say, oh, well, that's not applicable for me because either my business isn't big enough yet to have a team, or my business is too big. I have too much going on. I wouldn't be able to have, right, to shorten my work hours. So I'll give you two examples from both extremes. One is when I was when I was doing my 7 days and I knew that, 7 days a week and I had my child. And so I was I was trying to keep up with social media. Back then I was
Mm.
on social media a lot. And I realized that with the time that I had, I actually had to be more concise with my messaging. I had to be more precise because I didn't have as much time to be putting out post after post. I
Hmm.
really needed to create really impactful content and then repurpose that in
Hmm.
several places. And in order to come up with that, I really had to get very like measured and analytical about what was really driving sales calls.
Hmm.
Now, I don't think that kind of thinking and that almost ruthlessness in my ability to get very, very strategic about what I was doing would have come that early in my business if I hadn't had those time constraints.
Hmm.
Right. I would have had the time to put out a post a day and kind of just do whatever came to me in that moment without really testing and verifying and thinking about the impact of all of that I was creating. And
Hmm.
so that really forced higher level messaging earlier in my business to create more
Hmm.
with less. Now I'll tell you the story about a client of mine who had a seven-figure business, and she wanted to constrain her work week, but for her, the largest challenge was trusting her team to really
Oh,
be able to carry the business for her that she had built. It was
yeah.
her
Her
baby,
baby.
right? And she had very high levels and high standards of client delivery. And really, it was really challenging for her to like seed control in that
Mm.
way and potentially bring in failure or client disappointment.
Mm.
But when you get into a position where you're like, okay, we have to get this done and there's only 3 days to do it, how can we do that? At first, it just seems impossible. You're like, I have no idea how I would do that.
Hmm.
But that's the kind of problem solving. Your brain is solving it as you're sleeping. You don't even
Yep. It's
realize
higher level.
it's higher level until you finally are, at a yoga class or you're in the shower, right? Or you're
Hmm.
brushing your teeth. And then the idea comes, and she started realizing what she had to do, right? And it turns out she had to, she had been hiring people that were not going to allow her to step back
Mm.
because deep down she didn't want to step back.
Hmm.
Right. So it took her opening herself to a different type of person. Not only she could find them, but that they would really want to do that work and that they would love doing that work and working with her. So there
Hmm.
were a lot of like both mindset and energetic pieces. But again, if she weren't trying to constrain her work week, she could have stayed in there micromanaging for years and years, right?
Mm.
She could have created more work for herself and not had to have come to those lessons in the timely manner that she did. And
Hmm.
she's, I think, 33 years old.
Oh, good
She's
for
got a
her.
lot of good years ahead of her now
Yeah.
that
Well,
and I think like our future, excuse me, I was just going to say like our future self, it's not going to thank you for working harder.
no.
It's going to thank you for building better.
Hmm. Oh, I
Yeah.
completely agree. I think of Steve Jobs and Elon Musk, and they
Mhm.
were both big proponents of saying something to the effect of, it's going to take as long as you give it. If you give yourself 3 months to
Mm,
do this, it's going to take 3 months. If you give yourself three
yeah.
weeks, it's going to take 3 weeks. If you give yourself
Yes.
3 days, it's going to take 3 days.
Yeah.
Another way of thinking about all of this for me, too, that I think was really helpful was thinking about how much I wanted to make per hour. And
Mm,
let's just say, okay, you want to make $500 per hour.
hmm.
If I look at my time and how I'm spending it through that lens, am I doing most of my time doing $500 tasks?
Mm,
Or am I spending a lot of my time doing $10 an hour tasks that can be delegated to somebody who is very, very capable, who wants to do that work? And that helped me go through all of the things that I have to do on a daily basis and go, hey, I think it's important that I come up with the social media messaging, but I don't
hmm.
need to actually physically post it, right?
Hmm.
I
Right.
want to be involved in my podcast in the content creation of it as far as the questions go, finding great guests like yourself, following up with people if I need to. But I don't need to edit the audio. I don't need to edit the
Mm,
video. I don't need to be on YouTube posting all of it. I used to do every single piece
yes.
and allowing myself to think about things in those terms, like $500 an hour task or $1,000 an hour task versus tasks that can be handed off, also helped me really organize my day in a different way.
I love
And
that.
it just created so much more flexibility and so much more time for me to be working on the things that bring me joy. Some people love
Mm,
doing social media management. I hate it.
right.
It sucks the life out of me. And I think we should be spending most of our time, ideally, in our zone of genius, where we are creating that high vibrational energy, where we're creating more value for other people. And if we're caught in those things constantly that are holding us back, then it's not a good use of our time.
Oh my gosh. And don't you find that when you're thinking that way as well, you drop certain projects?
Oh,
You
for sure.
realize that I, wh why would if my time is more precious than anything, is
Hmm.
this something I want to spend my time on?
Hmm.
You know?
Oh,
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. Could not agree
Yeah.
more. Okay, I have a couple more questions for you before we wrap this up because I want to be very respectful of your time. Um, I want to talk to you a little bit about the Mediterranean because it's so close to my heart. My favorite places in the
Mm,
world are Greece and Italy. You're in
mm,
Mallorca, which is an island off of Spain.
yes.
What intentional lifestyle changes did that move allow for, and how has it influenced your business, energy, and decisions?
I love this. Yeah. We very intentionally wanted to live a blue zone lifestyle. Have you heard
Oh,
about
so
that? The
of
blue zone?
course. Yes.
Yes, yes. So there are certain commonalities in all of these places with high longevity. And
Mm-hmm.
part of that is walking up and down hills all day. Another part is having a really strong community where are constantly every day seeing these people and
Mm-hmm.
sharing lives with people, a healthy eating, um,
Mm-hmm.
and really a slower pace, right? And so
Much slower pace.
much slower pace. So all of those are things where we check the box here. And in fact, when we first moved to Mallorca, we were in a suburb. We were renting and trying to decide where we wanted to live. And we realized that we had moved to a suburb where you needed a car to drive everywhere.
Mm,
And you didn't really know your neighbors. And
mm,
we realized we were recreating the same lifestyle that we had just left.
mm.
And so we intentionally moved to an area right near my son's school so that we could walk him to school each day. And
Oh,
we
how
can,
sweet.
yeah, yeah,
I
it's a
love that.
beautiful life. And so many of his little friends live around here, and we can walk to the beach and we can walk to restaurants, and we don't need to get into our car unless we're going to the airport
Hmm.
or, someplace further away. So that is that and this strong sense of community when people come to a place like an island, you know, people are just in really good moods.
Yeah.
Typically, right? There's a lot of people either on vacation or moving here intentionally because they want this kind of life, whether they're moving here from mainland Spain or another country in Europe or anywhere in the world. People come here in order to find the place that has these values that they
Mm-hmm.
cherish.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very easy, therefore, to find really like-minded people and to create families, like created families. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
intentional. So do you
Yes.
feel like this move will be permanent for you guys?
Yes,
Yeah.
I do. Yeah.
For
Yeah.
anyone living in the States, I relate to what you're saying. When I moved to Arizona, it's a sunny place and the summers are hot, but
Mm,
there are so many people who intentionally moved here for the lifestyle, to be outdoors, to have
mm.
sunshine, to have great weather for the majority of the year. And so I have found that this is probably the happiest place I've ever lived.
Oh, I love
But
it.
for somebody living in, let's say, New York City or LA, and they're not in a blue zone, they're in the opposite
Mm,
of a blue zone, or maybe they're
mm.
in a rural area where, they do have to get in their car constantly to get where they need to. What would be a couple of tips that you would say that you can integrate no matter where you live to
Oh,
experience that, which will lead into my next question, but that
yeah.
nervous system sense of peace?
Oh my gosh. I have such a good one for this. So glad you asked because I was that person.
Yeah.
So we lived in Pennsylvania, very gray winters, very
Oof.
rainy,
Oof.
and we lived in the middle of cow country, central Pennsylvania. There was really nothing around us. And I remember once my son is very, very active, and so we have to find ways for him to just move his body. And
Yep.
they happened to have a fair going on the military base where we were living, and they had a bouncy castle. So we're
Mm,
like, done. We're definitely bringing him there so he can bounce around for a while. But I wasn't happy about it. It wasn't
mm,
where I wanted to be. And I remember my husband and we kind of laid down in the grass just feeling like we just have to be here so that our son can bounce. And as I was laying there, I had this thought, and I thought, you know what? If I were in Mallorca right now, I wouldn't really necessarily be doing anything differently. I'd
mm,
be laying here, probably on a beach or something, and
mhm,
I would just be, I would
mhm,
just be. And so I closed my eyes and, I just smelled the sea salt and I just felt the grass beneath me and I just pretended that I was in a different place, in a really
mm,
slow place. And Jaclyn, I kid you not, I nudged my husband. I'm like, Ben, you have to try this. And 2 minutes later, we felt like we had had a mini vacation.
mhm.
So that is a recommendation that
Our
I then started
minds.
implementing
Yeah.
myself. But mini vacations are in our power at any time of the day, no matter where we are.
Oh, I love that. Our minds are just so powerful. And I find like a lunch break is like a mini vacation for me. I'll make a
Mm,
beautiful lunch for myself and then I will eat it leisurely and not worry about getting right back to work. But then when I do go back to work later in the afternoon, I feel refreshed. I feel excited. I feel alive. So,
yeah.
oh, I just relate to that so much. And I love the concept of like a mini vacation.
Yes. Yeah.
So I want to ask you a little bit more about nervous system.
Mm,
How can someone who is on the verge of burnout, who
mm,
is so deep within that hustle culture, and I live in Scottsdale, which is very busy. There's a lot of opportunity here. There's a lot of liveliness. People are go, 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 go.
mm.
What would be like step one, two, three that you would say to somebody in that position to help regulate their nervous system. Because as we talked about earlier, when we start to regulate our nervous system, not only do we think higher frequency thoughts and feel better, but also that's when our bodies heal from
Mm.
stress, from illness, from everything else. So even if, somebody isn't ready to transition to a 3-day work week, how could they settle their nervous system daily for a few minutes or 15 minutes or whatever to come down and just rejuvenate?
Oh, that is so good. I mean, I wish that I could suggest a mini vacation for them, but you know what? I probably can't. And here's
Yeah,
why.
might be too much.
When you're that activated, you don't have access to the parts of your brain that actually allow you to slow down.
Mm,
And so it's like a vicious cycle. The
hmm
only solution you can come up with is more work, is more doing. And you're actually in a nervous system response, in a fight response.
mm,
And so it doesn't feel like I remember I had a client once and I told her, she came to me with, a time like this, and I told her to take a nap and she got
mm.
angry.
Yeah.
She said that she really needed tactics, like we really have to create her signature offer, like I had talked about. And I told her, I'm not suggesting this because I have any agenda about how you need to live your life.
Mm,
But I know where you want to go. I need to have you at your highest level of performance, and this is not it.
mm,
And you can't see that, but I can. And I
hmm
need you to get back to where you can produce at this level to get where you want to go.
mm,
And so the first thing I would tell somebody is you right now, like this, the sensations that are going on in your body are part of a stress response.
mm,
Your need to
hmm
do more is all part of a stress response. And I think that's really helpful because it's hard for us to see it when we're in it.
It
And to
is.
just
Yeah. To
know,
be able to call it out. Yeah.
yeah, to just know, like, if I'm feeling this cranky with my husband, it's a stress response. If I'm feeling like there's no other way but to stay up all night until midnight and finally finish this email, it's a stress response.
hmm
That gives you some space. And then the second thing is when you're that activated, which I have been, unfortunately, trying to meditate or trying to take a mini vacation, it's probably not
It's
going to
too
work
much.
for
It's too big of
you.
a leap.
You really need to, because your body thinks you're being chased.
Yeah.
That's what the limbic brain believes. And so you
hmm
really need to dance. You need to do something energetic. You need to work out. And it can be as short as a 2-minute song.
hmm
And kudos if it's really silly and makes you feel
hmm
like really outside of your normal self. But you need to move that body because it is the only way to communicate that you've created safety to your brain. And
hmm
then after that, that's when you can finally meditate or take a couple deep breaths, but let yourself shake out that nervous energy. Let
hmm
yourself move,
hmm
knowing that it's a stress response. And then you can start to do the meditation or the breathing or whatever else to like, okay, threat is over. We're
hmm
safe,
hmm
right? May feel like if this whatever launch doesn't succeed, we're right going to live under a bridge. It's not actually true. We're
hmm
safe
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we're in sufficiency.
Yeah.
And then where do we want to go from here?
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of the movie Nacho Libre, and Jack
I
Black
haven't
is like,
seen it.
the Niños, they need to release their wiggles. And that's exactly what it is. You also you
Yes.
see a dog that gets activated and it's barking at another dog and it's going crazy. And then afterwards it shakes. And it's the
Shakes.
nervous system's way of going, hey, we're shaking off the dust, we're shaking off that excess energy, and then they're
Yeah.
able to be calm again. And I think
Right.
the same translates to human behavior. I
Mm-hmm.
completely agree. We have an app called the Freq app, and I have a calibration in there about dancing midday to reset your brain and reset your thought processes to just go, hey, we're going to clean slate this
Mm.
rough morning, but it doesn't have to be a rough
Mm.
afternoon. How do we get
Mm.
from point A to point B? And I did the same thing. I danced it out, and it
Yeah.
makes such a huge difference. And if somebody doesn't want to dance, they can shake their body, they can go on a walk, they can lift some weights, whatever, do some
Do
yoga.
some squats.
Yes, exactly. But I
Yeah.
completely agree with you. We've got to be able to get that energy out so that the nervous system can start to settle down a little bit.
Yes,
Okay, I
absolutely.
have one last question for you.
Okay.
Well, actually, this is two part. What does
Okay.
a high vibe business mean to you, and how can we measure success differently in this new paradigm?
Mm. Okay, so to me, it's a business where you are really putting forth your greatest expression in the
Mm.
world, which I know you do.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
yes, but also while the business is supporting you to have the life that you choose.
Mm.
And I know we've heard so much, we hear so much about the top 1% of wealth, but
Hmm.
I really believe there's a new 1% that's forming
Couldn't agree more.
where, yeah, it's not about the wealth per se, although why not have wealth? Let's
Yeah.
bring on the wealth.
Heck yeah.
But it's really about the satisfaction of your
Mm.
life.
Hmm. The
Yeah.
quality. Oh, I totally relate to that. I talk to my husband about this weekly. I go, I am doing the work every day that I would do in my free time for free
Mm,
because I
yeah.
love it so much. And
Yeah.
I have such a freedom in my day to do what I want. And if my son is sick, I can stay home with him and it's not a big deal. So, oh, I just relate to everything you said in this conversation. Last last big question for you is if our listeners did just one thing this week to raise their frequency and move out of that hustle mindset, what would you suggest they do? Just
Yes.
one thing.
It is just this thing that we talked about. It's the CEO time. And
Mm,
that can be 90 seconds or it can be a morning off.
mm,
But it has to be something that when you are thinking about it, you know that it is creating your highest level work and
mm.
thinking. So you actually respect that time rather than feeling that it's indulgent or frivolous,
Yeah, it's
right?
not.
It's not. And it's done intentionally, but it also helps you either work out the wiggles, like
Hmm.
you said, or tap into the mini vacation or take your deep breaths. But it's meant to relax the nervous system and open your mind.
I love that so much. Okay, so Jenna, I am sure there are going to be people who are interested in working with you. What is, like a 1 minute synopsis of what they could expect in working with you and then where they can connect with you? And I'll also link those things in the show notes.
Oh, thank you. I work with clients individually, and we also have a group
Okay.
together because I believe when you're doing this work, it needs to be in tandem with other people who are also doing it to
Mm,
really help
love
your
it.
brain.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, really believe that it's possible for you. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's a group of women where we work together on these themes. And what we do is we really create the work week for you. Some of my
Mm.
clients don't want a 3-day work week. They
Okay.
want a 5-day work week because they've been working 7 days. And that's
Oh,
fine.
yeah.
It's really about really creating your uncommon way. And the name of my business is The Uncommon Way. So they can find me at theuncommonway.com. And we actually have an assessment on there. It's a short, fun little quiz to show you how much of your work week you'd be able to shave off using my
Oh,
methods, if you're
cool.
curious.
Oh, that
Yeah,
is so cool. Oh, I'm sure so many people will be so curious. Yeah, oh,
come check it out. It's
I
a fun
just,
place to be. It's a new way. More and more people are coming on board with this, and it
yeah,
is just a fun way to really see what's possible for yourself,
yeah.
knowing that if it's true that we are creators in the universe,
Hmm.
then why not create this with a 3-day work week?
Yeah.
Why not?
Why not create the life that we really desire?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that so much. Jenna, thank you so much for your time. Is there anything else that you want to share the audience before we end?
No, we have said it all. It's been such a great conversation. I can't wait to listen to it again
Good.
because there are so many great nuggets in there.
Yeah. So many, so many. I can't wait to pull them out too and share those little nuggets on social media. So I will end the recording, but thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for listening to The Freq Show with Sam Thurmond and me, Jaclyn Steele Thurmond. We would love to connect with you via our website, beckonliving.com, and on social media.
You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Beck and Living, and you can join our email list to receive uplifting messages, podcast and business updates, and discounts on high-frequency products just for our freaky community.
Cheers to high-frequency living.